Hello and welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about my favorite stock, which is Rocket Lab. So I've been invested in Rocket Lab since as soon as it went onto the public markets. On this YouTube channel, I've wanted to document building a new portfolio from scratch at the start of this year. And so I haven't been talking about Rocket Lab as much because I've already got my main position in another portfolio, and where it's so high at the moment, it's not necessarily what I'm looking at buying at the moment. But it's my biggest position, and it currently still is my biggest position, and I'm still super excited about the company. So I wanted to go through my thought process on Rocket Lab, basically kind of the history of it, when I first started looking at Rocket Lab, which was before it even became a public company, why I invested in it, and crucially why I invested in it and I still hold now, even though it's gone up over 20x on when I've first purchased it. And then we also going to go on to showing like my actual best buy that I did of Rocket Lab back in 2022, I believe. So we can go over that towards the end of the video as well. So first of all, let's jump into the stock price to give you a story of what Rocket Lab has actually been doing since it went public. So back here, it was a SPAC. So it was a special purpose acquisition vehicle that then turned into Rocket Lab. I'd actually been interested in Rocket Lab. I'm a big space nerd, so I was following them since about 2017. So as soon as it was announced that they were going to go public, I bought before they even de-SPACed, just because I wanted to be a part of the story. It's a super exciting company. I love watching their rocket launches, so I wanted to be a part of it. And then also when it became a public company, it became Rocket Lab RKLB, which is around here. I think this might have been when it de-SPACed, but I was kind of buying for out here basically, and I held a small position just as kind of I wanted to be a part of the company. Then what happened is, of course, we had the big bear market, which started in 2022. Growth stocks got absolutely hammered, and Rocket Lab was a part of that. But what was interesting during this period, so from about 27th of May 22 all the way up to August 24, so over 2 years, is the stock remained completely depressed. Meanwhile, Rocket Lab was just consistently executing and getting better and better as a company. They were executing on what they said they were going to do in the previous years. Their launch cadence were going up, their revenue was going up, and it was all moving in the right direction, whilst the stock market was depressed, which is obviously a good sign for investment if you think that's going to continue. And this whole time they were doing this in an industry like the space industry, I think what was also crucial that went missed a lot is they're doing a lot of things that are really, really hard, and you cannot just replicate them by spending money. We know that Jeff Bezos has got the other big space company, Blue Origin, and it's taken him so long to reach orbit, and they had a fantastic year last year. But it's not just an industry that you can spend to get into. It's really, really hard to do these things. It's really, really hard to reach orbit and get a consistent launch cadence, which is what Rocket Lab was doing that whole time. So now we're going to go into some of the reasons what I was looking at inside Rocket Lab that made me want to buy it, and why I'm still happy to be a shareholder now. The next thing I wanted to go on to was their launch cadence. This is a graph that was put together by Matt Money on YouTube. This is on his X account, and it really demonstrates the cadence that they're getting over time from when they first started launching back here up until the 1st of 2026. You can see this launch cadence is just going up and to the right, and also it's almost exponentially growing as we get up to the top here. This is such a hard thing to do. Launching one rocket and reaching orbit is one thing, but consistently repeating that is the magic of the launch industry. That is what has made SpaceX such a fantastic business. It's made launching Falcon 9 rockets and landing them just a normal everyday thing. And it's something that not other companies, but most countries can't achieve that. When we're talking about the most launched rockets, or the most launched, the companies launching the most rockets, it's SpaceX, then I believe it's the government of China, and then it is Rocket Lab. And I believe they launched more rockets than Russia last year, I believe. I'll have to check on that. But getting that launch cadence, it doesn't matter that it's a smaller rocket, is such a hard thing to do. That I think most people kind of overlooked that, and it's not easy to replicate. Going on to the next point. So another thing that I looked at a lot when I'm looking at companies is being founder-led. I think that is such an important thing for driving a company forward. It actually shows that there is substance behind the company and a purpose towards it. And it also shows that someone is just driving it forward and really wants to succeed. And that is exactly what I saw in Peter Beck of Rocket Lab. If you want to get an idea of like where they come from, take a look on their YouTube channel, their actual YouTube channel, Rocket Lab's official YouTube channel now. You can go on here, and although they've got all their updates of their massive government contracts and awards and also their live streams, their launches they do there, if you go onto the same YouTube channel and go to oldest, you can see videos like this 16 years ago, which is Rocket Lab launching suborbital rocket. Let's just pause this, suborbital rocket, and it's basically some guys out in the field launching what looks like a model rocket in comparison to what they're doing today. This, of course, this did actually reach space, but this is 16 years ago, and these guys were still doing the same thing, pursuing. They're not doing this for money. They're not doing this to raise money and create and put a company on the stock market because that's what they want to do. They're doing it because they are rocket engineers and they absolutely love doing this. That is a great thing for me to see. Moving on from that, again, the founder-led side of things. This book by Ashley Vance, When the Heavens Went on Sale. So I've watched every single interview that Peter Beck has done. He's a fantastic guy to listen to. He's incredibly smart, and what his kind of life story of how he became an engineer. He's not a classically trained engineer in terms of didn't go to university or anything like that. He just built stuff from a very young age. He built, tested, and learned. And that's how he basically built his rocket company, and he sent stuff to space, which is absolutely incredible. And this book goes through that. It goes through the story of Elon Musk starting SpaceX in the early days, but it also goes on to the other companies that were trying to do the same thing. This actually goes quite deep into Peter Beck's history of making rocket engines in his shed, strapping them to a bike to first test his own rocket engines. His story of his career and raising the first money for Rocket Lab is absolutely incredible. When you're reading stuff like that, this is a guy that wants to win and that wants to succeed because that's what he's born to do. He's not getting distracted by anything else. And when you're obsessed with your product that much, that is the sign for a winning company for me. That is why he's done something that so many people have failed at. That is why his engineering is beautiful and the company has such strict requirements and does so well. It is because of that man and what he's instilled in that company. And also another thing that was happening all this time is they've got their fingers in a lot of pies and they've got a lot of power and trust from governments. So the US government and the Department of Defense was increasingly relying on them. They got a big SDA contract back a few years ago for Tranche 2 that doubled their backlog, and the stock price had a little pump and then went back down again like it never happened. They've launched HASTE missions, which is their new suborbital, or at the time, suborbital launch vehicle. And they're also signing deals now with other governments like the Japanese government. So they can be launching a different, like from New Zealand for government contracts for them. And they can also be launching in the US for government contracts for the US. They're getting trusted with a lot of stuff by a lot of different countries, very, very serious things. And that's, again, the strength of the company that signals to me this is here for the long run and people are relying on them and people really know that they're the real deal. So now we will let's move over to my best stock buy, which I've got here. So this, I kind of went through my buys of back in the day and found this, which is crazy to look back on, but this is back in 2023 when I was, again, I'd bought Rocket Lab well before this, but this is when I'm still looking at Rocket Lab being depressed, not knowing what's happening. And I bought 500 shares of Rocket Lab. It's crazy to see this now at $3.81. So as of today, looking at the stock price, we're, let's go back here. Yeah, as of today, looking at the stock price, we're at $96. And this is now going back to, 3 years ago, nearly $3.81, 500 shares, £1,570. So on these shares, that's more than a 20x on that, which is crazy to think. And all the time, Rocket Lab was still executing. Rocket Lab has a lot more behind it now in terms of executing 2 years worth of launches or 3 years worth of launches and contracts and stuff. this was such a fantastic company that you could buy that cheap then. And I remember when I was buying this, it felt like, what am I missing here? There's got to be some sort of catch because there is a massive disparity. So that's a look at basically the first buys that well, not the first buys, but one of the best purchases of Rocket Lab that I made. So now let's move on to the broader question, which is, what am I doing with Rocket Lab now? And the question is not much really. So Rocket Lab, I'm holding my shares. It's the biggest part of my portfolio. It's not as big as it was because I have trimmed some shares just because it became such a large part of my portfolio, but it's still my biggest holding. Now, at the moment, am I buying? No, I'm not buying. We had a fantastic run at the end of last year, and this year has also started amazing to get up to that price. I always thought Rocket Lab was going to be a $100 company. That's what I had in my head. I did not think that it was going to do it this quickly. So I think it's got a lot of their good performance baked in. So I'm not buying shares at the moment. I'm happy to hold. And when we're talking about the portfolio that I'm doing kind of on YouTube now, you will see that I have not purchased Rocket Lab in that yet. If it comes down, I'm happy to purchase Rocket Lab in this portfolio. It's just at the moment, starting from scratch, I'm looking for maybe some depressed names that I think are due a pop and also protect a bit of downside if you were to have some sort of a downturn. So the market's been very, very hot recently. If we have some sort of downturn or pullback in the S&P 500, the kind of growth names that I invest in, and Rocket Lab is going to be one of them, are going to get hammered, most likely even more than the S&P 500. We saw that during like the start of last year, and we also saw it towards the end of last year. They can get really, really depressed very quickly. So I'm happy holding at the moment. Will I be buying more? We'll see what happens this year, but it's a fantastic company. I'm so happy to be a shareholder, and I'm just excited to see how they execute in this coming year, because they've got a lot of catalysts on the way. And of course, we've got the launch of their new Neutron rocket. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, just to give a bit of a backdrop of someone who's been in Rocket Lab for the whole ride. And please do follow along. Let me know if you're a Rocket Lab investor as well, and when your first buyers were. I'd be really interested to know that. And apart from that, I'll see you for the next video for the next portfolio update.